Namaskar and welcome to Indian Diplomacy, show on India's national television channel Doordarshan about Indian foreign policy, India's international relations, India's major strategic partnerships, and how India is involved in proactively shaping a better world order. Viewers, this is the special 100th episode of Indian Diplomacy, a show I launched in February 2022. So it's a special occasion. We're talking about 100th century. So the theme of this show is actually the Indian century. We have two notions of an Indian century. The first is 2047, which is the anniversary of India's independence, the 100th anniversary. And then we have the whole of 21st century, which promises to be an Indian century where India's leadership, India's power and influence are expected to peak. So we're going to be focusing on the Indian century and talking to a very special audience who is with me today, young Indians who are from 4 universities and who specialize in the study of international relations, from Jawaharlal Nehru University, from South Asian University, from Jindal Global University and from Amity University. We have 43 young people, young minds who are passionate about international relations and India's role in the world who are with me today. Welcome folks, welcome to Indian Diplomacy. It's so good to have you all here. Let's kickstart the show by talking about India's rise, because you know this is the biggest question on the global horizon. Who's going to be the next great power? We have at present acknowledged only 2 great powers in the world, China and the United States. But India is expected to join those ranks. And that is ultimately, you know, maybe the greatest change in the world order that we are going to see in the 21st century. From what some people call currently a bipolar order to a tripolar and ultimately a multipolar world order, right? So India is rising. And our proposition, viewers, is that India is going to take its destined place under the sun, and the time is now. Between now and 2047, we call it the Amrit Kal, period of great opportunity for India's rise, and then from then until the end of the 21st century is also the Indian century, likely and hopefully. So we are going to be threshing out what this means and why India is rising and what are India's main strengths and capabilities. Okay, so let's begin the show by sharing some thoughts on this rise and India as a leading power. You know, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi and our External Affairs Minister Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar are known for coining this phrase called leading power as opposed to just great power, right? Great power is what we normally talk about in the international relations literature: small power, middle power and then great power. But then there is our uniquely coined phrase leading power, and something we want to accomplish and achieve and to reach, a kind of a long-term goal, right? And we are on the way. So let me start by asking one of you to come forward and talk about why being a leading power is such an important thing, and how far do you think we are on the way to becoming a leading power, and what are the attributes of a leading power, the way you understand it. Is India going to be a different type of great power from the pre-existing great powers of the past? How are we going to be different? And what do you feel about this goal and grand ambition? Earlier, we never used to even have an ambition. We would not even state that we want to be something. We used to be hesitant about power. But now we are saying we want to be a leading power. So can we hear from one of you, please? Yes, please.
Hello, everyone. This is Shikha Swaraj from Jawaharlal Nehru University. And as we heard the term rising power and leading power, I believe India as a rising power, we have heard this term since we are hearing this term since last 10 years and few years. So rising power and leading power and great power and superpower, the difference between that I believe is the way India deals with the 2 superpowers right now. We are able to deal with both of them very diligently, very effectively, that the world is able to recognize our power. Secondly, what we believe, what India is on the trajectory of in different aspects, like militarily, or when we talk about leading power economically, in the terms of representing its own soft power on the world platform. And most importantly, what is a leading power is determined by its capacity to not exploit, as we said earlier, The conception of the great power, not to exploit the world, but to lead the world in the terms of Vishwamitra. In the times of corona or pandemic, we saw how, despite of the crisis that the world went through, we kind of came forward and did the thing of vaccines to the country. During the earthquakes, we have seen in Turkey how India came forward as a friend. So this leading power, this great power in the form of is a friend to the world, is a friend to guide the world in the terms of on the path of prosperity for welfare of the entire world. As we say, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and as we say that the world is a family and we're here to prosper, we're here to lead. So I believe this leading power, this great power, superpower, the terminology that we use in contemporary Indian foreign policy is very well suited to our civilizational values that I see the ministry, or at present the present government is kind of endorsing this thing, which is acceptable to a world on the world platform, which is very much evident when we see the complete unanimous endorsement of the G20 Delhi Declaration, which also talks about the same. So I believe we are on the trajectory, and very soon in this Amrit Kal or in few years we'll be able to accomplish our goals and trajectory.
Well said. Our friend from Jawaharlal Nehru University, viewers, is quite upbeat about India's rise, and she has highlighted many aspects of why India is rising and is going to be a leading power. Let me hear from another set of students now. We heard about certain positions and certain behavioral aspects of India that make it a leading power and is likely to provide leadership to the world, right? But let's talk a bit about the capabilities. I mean, our friend from JNU already mentioned economic, military and soft power, but let's go a little deeper into this. Let's talk a bit about what are our core strengths and capabilities, and what makes India so promising as a country that the whole world is saying it is the next would-be great power and is likely to become one, or the leading power. Let's hear from another student, please.
Hello sir, my name is Adya Nanta and I'm from South Asian University. So as you talked about what are the potential that India has. So the demographic dividend that India has right now and the soft power, India is known as the civilizational state. So the soft power that India has right now, and it is trying to change that soft power into a hard power. So the narrative that India is trying to create and the shift that India is trying to create by acting as a balancing state, it has come forward in the Ukraine-Russia conflict to address as a negotiator. So this soft power and the demographic dividend that India is trying to come up with has potentials, and in the near future we are going to see India as the leading power.
Talk a little bit about capabilities. I mean, the economic, military, and so you mentioned the soft power and the potential for us to be a bridge between East and West, North and South. Yes, but I want to talk about the basics, right? You're students of international relations. Economic, military. Let's talk a bit about that. What's been happening on that front, and why is the world looking up to India on those fronts?
India has, if I'm not wrong, India is the 4th largest economy in the world right now. It has surpassed UK already. So from that front, China wants to trade with us. Every other country wants to have its markets in India. And as the largest consumer in the world, we have the potential to shift countries having base in another country, and we are now coming up with a supply chain resilience initiative as well. So in that way, economic sense, India is coming up and rising to its potential.
Right. Anyone wants to join in on the military front, our defense modernization? Everybody wants to know whether India can be a country that projects power in the Indo-Pacific and beyond, beyond Asia. Can we hear another student talking about our military and defense preparedness and capabilities, how those have been growing steadily? Yes, please.
Hello, sir. I'm Himakshi Chaudhary and I'm from Jindal Global University. So my response would be militarily, India is also coming up front. not just with respect to importing defense equipment from Russia and Israel, but also growing indigenously in terms of defense. With Russian partnership, with Israeli and French partnership, we are coming up with more plants, with more equipment, with more military devices that are also growing within India.
Right, and technology matters a lot, and that's obviously one of the determinants of great power status. And viewers, we are placing a lot of emphasis both in the civilian and the military side. In India, the leadership wants more advanced technologies to be integrated into our growth story and also our defense modernization story. Let me hear from some students about the technological advancements that India is making, and not only for ourselves, but we are also providing solutions, what we call digital public goods or infrastructure for the rest of the world. So let's talk about India as a technological power and how that matters to be seen as a leading power. Anyone? Yes, please.
Hello sir, I'm Shreya from Amity University. You see the most technological startups, maybe in US, maybe in different parts of the world, belongs to the Indian developers, Indian architectures, and the biggest thing is India hosts IITs, that is Indian Institute of Technology. That's where most of the big CEOs for the fintech startups grow from. And when we talk about the DPI, that is a DPI system of India.
Digital public
infrastructure, yes. So that forms the basic core for the digital transformation of India. That was started with the initiative of the present government. The UPI, the Digi stack that we see today, that the Aadhaar card, we have everything online. That is like revolutionizing the technology of India. Currently, India stands at 7th position in AI technological advancement. The startups that we are bringing in today's time for artificial intelligence, that is the revolution of the technology. US has the most startup, and after that China ranks at the 2nd position. But India at the 7th position is not bad. It's like we are growing. We have the potential, and that's what we are looking forward to in the upcoming Viksit Bharat initiative as well. That we want to explore more in our technological sector. We want to explore more in our economic integration. We want to explore more.
Good. Okay. So technology is one area which is a major priority. And viewers, history shows that no country has become a great power or a superpower without investing in its young minds and its technology. And here in this audience, you also have young people, and this demographic dividend of India is also something that's often spoken about, because we have hundreds of millions of young people below the age of 30, like all of them here on this stage with me. And the average age is just around 26. So the demographic decline, even China has peaked and is now undergoing declining fertility rates, and net replacement ratios and all are falling. But with India, we have no such problem, at least for the next 20-30 years. So that's the big window where we should become a developed country, as our leadership say, high income society, and we should also become a leading power with a lot of influence. So let me bring in our young audience again on this question of the demographic dividend. I mean, there's a lot talked about this, but with 1.5 billion people, there's always the question of whether we can really tap into the full potential of the young people of this country. And you are all here, and you are actually the reason why we feel hopeful about India becoming a leading power. I probably won't be there to see a day when we are the number one in the world in economic and military terms, but I'm very much hopeful that you will all be there. So for that to happen, let's focus a little bit on our human resources. This is something that's driving India's rise, right? I mean, most people are amazed and astounded. We just spoke about technology, about the work done by our IT professionals, for example. That's one reason why India is known in many parts of the world, or the medical practitioners, our diaspora. So these are very critical, factors in enabling India's rise. So let's focus a bit on our human resources. What is it about Indians that they're so productive when given the right kind of incentive structure, or the right kind of work environment, and the right kind of institutional support? why Indians shine or even often outshine. You see that in the diaspora. But even here at home, there are some amazing examples now. So can someone come in about and reflect a little bit about young Indians and why we are so full of energy and why we want to show the world that we are the best in the world? This kind of thing is not common in many societies. Many societies are not so aspirational. They don't want to rise up. I mean, they're just content with where they are, including in developing countries. But here we have the spirit of nationalism, patriotism, and a sense of, wanting to do something big and showing the world that we can lead. There's so much ambition, right? So let's talk a bit about young people and demography and ambition. Would someone want to come in? Yes, please.
Hello, sir. I am Jyotiradit from Amity University. So when we talk about this enthusiasm, where it comes from, the source that we say, it actually comes from the optimism that we have for this great nation, India, that is Bharat. And that optimism derives from when we see the statistics that we are now the 5th largest economy. We are seeing our own indigenous growth in terms of AMCA, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, the 5th generation fighter aircraft that our military is building. We see indigenization in submarines, nuclear powered submarines. India is looking forward for it. This enthusiasm, the growth story, that feeling is there, and when provided with the right atmosphere, R&D, we already know that how much our government is focusing on R&D now. Earlier it was definitely neglected. I would say we did not focus on it that much, but right now I think we have focused on R&D very much, and we are trying to give that atmosphere for the students to come up with research papers which will further lead to more advancements. And we all know that economic muscle power is very much important to be a superpower. Without economic muscle power, one cannot be a superpower on a global stage. When you have economic backing, you can invest into sectors like defense, R&D, which further leads to advancement in technologies and provides a base for the youth to experiment. And when experiment happens, we come up with a wonderful product which changes so many lives and comes up with wonderful technologies that impact us all and probably leave us in awe as well.
Great. Yeah, so the innovations that young people are doing, the startup culture, all these things are new. Viewers, 10 years ago, there was no such thing. Risk taking, the willingness to be entrepreneurs and to do something new and different. And instead of simply, there used to be a culture and a mindset of just seeking a cushy job in government. Once upon a time, that was the only aspiration of young Indians, but now we are seeing that they are willing to branch out and do many things in unconventional domains which can enhance the national power and strength. So clearly that is an advantage. Okay, so far we've been talking about our capabilities, economic, military, demographic, technological, all these things. Let me now move to the question that our young audience is already plugged into, and which is about our strategy and positioning. This is also, of course, so there is a behavioral side to become a great power, and there is a a structural inbuilt power dynamic. But let's talk about the behavioral side now. Many of you are saying that we have some unique standing in the world, and that we are able to balance different players, and we also have closeness to many players. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has recently said, for example, that there was an era when we were maintained equal distance from all sides, and now we maintain equal closeness to all sides. So this multi-alignment, let's focus a little bit on this. We have a lot of friends, a lot of very close strategic partners, and they are from different corners of the world, and with whom we are doing extraordinary things. Some of you mentioned, for example, defense partnership, but there's so much more happening. Coordination is happening, right? And sometimes you look at the friends we have, and they are actually diametrically opposed to each other, and still they are our friends, right? So there's something about India and its positioning. If not in the middle, we are in the lead, and everybody wants our hand of friendship, right? Let's talk a bit about this. Why are we so most wanted in terms of being a friend, a dependable friend, We don't say ally because we don't do military alliances, but short of military alliances, we are doing very powerful strategic partnerships, right? Can we have someone speak about India as a friend and how that matters to us being a leading power? Yes, please.
Hi sir, my name is Ashish Gupta and I'm from Amity University. Sir, as you said, asked the question that why is an image in the whole world of India as a dependable partner or as someone who will come in terms of need when specific country is having a need. So I think that it has been a major achievement of our diplomats and our foreign policy that India over the years has created a brand image, for instance, of a reliable country, of a state that ensures that every country is included, there is shared responsibility, and the concept of Vishwamitra, for instance, this the friend to all, or Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, that is the world is one family. So it deals with inclusive development, a leader in global south, as our Prime Minister referred to in the vibrant Gujarat summit. So this has been going on for past couple of decades, because as earlier mentioned, the Turkish earthquakes, so India was the first country to initiate medical help. Even though our state-to-state relation with Turkey are not on the best terms regarding the issue with Kashmir or the relations with Pakistan, or in terms of need, when we have helped multiple countries during the COVID pandemic, when US and a lot of Western nations were having vested interest in selling their own vaccines at high rates to the countries such as Latin American countries and South African countries or African, which do not have that kind of capability to pay that price. So this image building has been going on for the past couple of decades, and it has been a major achievement of India.
Good. Yeah. So a friend in need is a friend indeed. You know, it's a cliche, but India certainly seems to be living up to that kind of billing. Viewers, it's not common for a country to share its limited resources, despite being a developing country, with other developing countries or even richer countries. We do that, and it's not because we get anything immediate or anything very concrete in return, but because it helps to establish ourselves as a highly dependable country on whom people can rely. That's how we became the vaccine provider for the world during the pandemic. Friends, we've so far spoken about India's credibility, but let's now come to the core issue of strategy. So we have this sharp division in the world, right? With China leading one camp seemingly, and Russia behind China, or allied to China or aligned with China. And then you have the United States and the Europeans who form the so-called the Western camp. Some people have called this the new Cold War, right? This division. Now India, we have a leg in both the camps, like we've just spoken. And we actually are saying we don't want to be a camp follower of either side, because we want to be a leader on our own, or maybe have our own camp, right? Ultimately, that is the goal. Let's talk a bit about this. Indian foreign policy, which is, you know, navigating these very, very difficult times where there's sharp polarization in the world. Can someone come in and talk about how we have tried to be somewhere in the middle on these issues, and how are we actually juggling these balls? You know, why are the balls not falling off when they are all antagonistic to each other? The classic is Russia and the US, right? I mean, they're so much at odds with each other, and we are close to both of them. So, yes, please.
Namaste, sir. I am Shivanshi Raturi from Amity University. So, as we are talking about Vishwamitra, let me highlight that India is not trying to be a hegemon. India is trying to be a Vishwamitra, a global friend. And yes, I would say India is one country which is juggling up with all the camps. You talk about global south and global north. We talk about bridging that gap. We are engaging global north. We are engaging global south. We are balancing between Israel and Palestine. Our Prime Minister goes to Ukraine, and Russian Prime Minister says that we will stop the war. And Ukraine Prime Minister also gave that statement that if India intervenes, we will maybe Russia will stop the war. This is a big statement. This shows that India's stand matters. We are not following any camp. We are actually making our own camp. And how we are juggling is, we are a peaceful country. We want strategic partnership. We want the whole world to be a family, which we are a member of. And that is what makes India different. India is going to be a very different powerful country in the future. We are on our way. We do face a lot of problems. But I think the way we are juggling it will make us a different, powerful country by not being a hegemon, not being a leader, but being a group of family. I think that answers the question.
Excellent. Yeah. So again, there are some unique characteristics about the way India engages with the world that our friend from Amity University is talking about. And there is also the question of how do we sustain these strategic partnerships? We have strong military and economic linkages with opposing camps. And from what you've been studying and what you've been observing, I want you all to come in and talk about how do we do this. If the Americans say, join the sanctions against Russia, Russia is an aggressor, okay, we don't join the sanctions, right? If the Russians say, you don't go too close to the US, don't do a lot of things with the US because we have to create a Eurasian, BRICS or RIC type of a world order which is countering Western hegemony, we don't join the Russians either, right? So how does this go across? I mean, when you see world leaders talking about India, they think probably that we are a tough nut, meaning it's not so easy to bend and to mold us this way or the other, right? They think of us as maybe a rising country, but which has its own mind and which is not a slavish follower of anyone, right? Probably that gives us more respect than simply joining one camp. Maybe we can get some more temporary benefits by being part of one camp, but in the longer run, that may be more counterproductive. What happens to our autonomy, right? Let's talk about autonomy. Can we have someone talking about strategic autonomy? Yes, please.
Hi, I am Harshivare. I am from JNU. When we talk about India's autonomy, we found the basics from the India's capability, that is demographic dividend. India's had demographic dividend, that is one of the biggest India's benefit, and it's make the India to be autonomous in their strategy and their foreign policies. When we talk about the economic benefits, Russia wants to be India's their ally because they want the India's benefit from the crude oil, the geoeconomic terms. When we talk about the USA also want India from the economic perspectives because they own the market, consumption market, and India is one of the biggest consumption market in the world. We are the top economy in the world. And apart from it, when we talk about the leading countries and when we talk about the India's autonomous, India's already developing their indigenous weapons, like BrahMos already developed India. It's also India possess India that India will be autonomous in their military stance. Apart from it, when we talk about the Navy, also we have developed the nuclear submarines, INS Arikhat, and the aircraft. When we talk about the space, India's also developed their strategic autonomous by developing the anti-satellite missiles, ASAT. Apart from we developed the MOAM, the mission for Mars. Apart from that, we had developed Aditya L1. That's India is one of the leading country in the space.
Right.
Okay.
So, so the many manifestations of this autonomy, and our friend from JNU is mentioning some of them. Students, the point is that we are, obviously looking to extract the most benefits from every partner, every major strategic partner. But my question is, why are they giving us or sharing with us when instead of that they can simply say, you have to first toe my line and then only I'll give you the technology, or then only I'll do trade with you, then only I will share advanced weaponry. Why are they not making it like a conditional thing? Why are they, for example, the sanctions bit, we just spoke about sanctions. How is it that we have been, trading in oil and in weapons with the Russians despite the Ukraine war, and we are not being sanctioned by the US? I mean, there is some, mild rebuke or occasional criticism you hear from the US, but so far, and I don't think it's even on the cards, our strategic partnership with the United States is growing in spite of doing so much with Russia. So why are the Americans not saying, oh, India, unless you behave, we will not give you what you want? Why are they still wanting us? Can we have, yes, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Sakshi Alok from Jawaharlal Nehru University, and you are asking about the agency, the autonomy, why India is having that autonomy at that point of time. So the power to say what you want to say come from the capabilities you have, and at that point of time, India is like becoming successful in maintaining that autonomy. Like I am very appreciative of the fact the India government right now, the balancing between the East or the West, we can say, it's because like the market we provide to the Western countries or the China, you can say, the agreements we are in, like ASEAN countries, at the same time we are dealing with G20 and at the same time with SCO. That's a very appreciative kind of stand we can talk about. And obviously we have a age of demographic dividend which the whole world is looking upon us. So these are the facts we can take into account, I want to say.
Right, right. Yeah, so the market incentive, nobody wants to let go of this huge market, and we have that power, no doubt about it. It's a large, and growing middle class, 700-800 million people or more. It's not a small thank you. So the point is we are able to now manage these contradictions, right? And that's one of the plus points. Usually a rising power cannot afford to be a junior partner of any existing great power. That may give you security or protection, but will not enable you to rise further, because when you are part of a camp, it also limits your options, and it take Japan for example, right? It's treaty ally of the United States, always been in that camp for last more than 75. So it has grown, it has become a major economy in the world, a rich country, but now increasingly they are saying that they need to break out of the shackles of the US imposed constitution and to develop their own military, because they can't rely on anybody in this kind of new world order disorder where China is being very aggressive. So obviously there are limitations. If we followed the Japan model, we would probably we may be able to become rich by closely aligning with the West, but we may not become a great power or a leading power, right? And Japan is not and cannot become a leading power because of that reason. So okay, so we are now clear on why India is in this sweet spot, right? Both structurally in terms of the underlying dynamics, also behaviorally, right? Let's now move to all of you and what you all think need to happen, because it's not just positive, right? It's a dangerous world out there, right? And I want to hear from all of you what you think we are doing about threats and challenges to national security from external aggressors and external adversaries. We have two adversaries, everybody knows it, the whole world knows it. Out of 193 countries, or 192 apart from us, 190 we probably get along, but there are two adversaries and they're right next door, right? And we've had long problems with these two adversaries. Now, obviously you cannot become a leading power if you don't tackle adversaries. It's not only about friendships and increasing our partnerships with all sides. That is only one side, right? How do you deal? And in fact, historically, a great power or a leading power is a country that is able to shape its external security environment as per its will or as per its preferences. Yeah. So how are we dealing with threats and adversaries, and how does that show that we are also a leading power? Yes, please.
Hello sir, I'm Rajani Garg from South Asian University. So one of the biggest things about geopolitics is to secure your neighbors, and specifically when it comes to that of India's neighbors, we always forget the neighbors which is in the oceans. There's a concept of near water and there's a concept of far water, so it's important for India to secure its near waters. As a result of which India is now becoming a partner with that of IORA, to at the same time also establishing many of the military alliances such as Sagarmala Initiative, Quad, etc. So these are the ways in which India is protecting its near waters, and at the same time it's also trying to upgrade its coastal guards, and at the same time also establish border security in such a way, such as that of fencing that of the Indo-Myanmar border, through which we have this, I am a northeastern, and as a result of which we always fear the open borders, through which we often fear that there will be insurgents entering the northeastern countries. As a result of which India has now realized that this is a big threat to India, and as a result of which India has started fencing, and that too with smart borders. It's not the normal barbed wire and that of a wooden border. It is the smart borders that they are doing. At the same time, India is also upgrading its technology, be it that of using drones in these area of dense forest, etc. So what India is doing is that India is not just protecting itself from that of the neighbors in that of the countries with which you share a land boundary. India is also strategizing itself and positioning itself in that of the near waters, or that is in the ocean realm as well. So it is important for India presently, as because India is not capable to show, India is capable to show its presence in the far waters or in the areas far from India as well. But first, to begin with security, it is necessary that India starts with its neighbors. India starts with its near waters, and thereby India will start showing its geopolitical dominance in this area. Only when once you start beginning with your own geopolitical dominance in this area, you are able to move forward. And in fact, bringing in another example, India's security also depends on its Indian Ocean, and that is one of the reasons as to why India presently is going to that of Antarctica missions as well. To that of the to that of Mars mission as well, whereby through satellite technology, through investing in different technological models, be it that of solar energy or and at the same time also the satellite technology, AI, India is trying to establish its security such that despite being on the center, it has its eyes on its borders as well.
Right. Yeah. So our friend from South Asian University is talking about maritime security, maritime domain. Obviously, Indian Ocean region, Indo-Pacific, these are very, very central theaters where we need to, the Navy has the doctrine of command and dominance over the Indian Ocean, and beyond. We want to venture further and develop our capabilities to be a net security provider across the Indo-Pacific. But let's talk about the land borders also. We have two adversaries like we've just mentioned. How have we tackled them? What does that say about our rise? Because we have long-standing problems with China and Pakistan. These are not new. These go back to since independence, more than 75 years ago. But the way we are tackling or responding or retaliating or countering the challenge posed by these two, especially China, because it's a far bigger adversary. Can we hear from someone? Yes, please.
So, sir, my name is Rahul Kumar, and I'm a PhD candidate in Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. So, sir, regarding the China's problem, so if we see the traditional concept of security of India, so we were largely focused on the Pakistan side, that okay, the major threat of India used to be Pakistan. But now, after the Galwan issue and the post-COVID pandemic, so we have seen a kind of shift from the our security threat from Pakistan to China. Now, how to counter the China's problem? So I think there are multiple things that India needs to do. First, on the economical front, and what India is doing. So we know the bilateral trade between India and China is touching around 130 billion US dollar, right? So we need to shift that kind of economical dependence with China to India, and what we are doing. So we are focusing a large, we are focusing on the R&D things. We are trying to get most of the investment from China to India. And for that purpose, our diplomacy is working. We are working with the USA, we are working with the Western countries, we are working with the Japan. For example, the recent example is the emerging technologies, the recent emerging technologies for semiconductors. So we are trying to accumulate all this technology into the India land. And this is the one thing that I always focus key. If you want to dent China, then we don't need to go on the border. We go onto the economics, because it is their pocket which are enabling China to assert their foreign policy among all our neighborhood. If you see the problems in our neighborhood, the major challenge is China, I can assure you. And the problem is not they are providing their arms and ammunition. The problem is they are providing them finance. And from where the finance is coming, you have to think about it. The finance is coming from largely from the Western country that they're investing in China, and from there they're getting the money to accumulate the things and providing the kind of pockets to the other countries. Second thing, if we see the cultural part of India, So we see whether you see any religion, is Islam, Buddhism, or Hinduism, every religion has its root in India. So we can accumulate. We should capitalize this concept as a cultural diplomacy, or you can say the soft power diplomacy with all the neighboring countries of China. Example Korea, example Japan. Most of the countries are following the Buddhism religion. So we can also capitalize this cultural aspect, and we are doing that thing, and we are getting benefit out of it, right, sir?
Okay, okay, got you. So yeah, our friend from JNU is talking about economic and cultural means by which we can push back Chinese influence. But I want to focus on the core national security response. You have 60,000 Chinese troops on the border for almost 4 years now and trying to apply pressure and make more and more claims. How are we pushing that back? You know, that's the fundamental question that people ask. How can you be a great power or leading power if you cannot defend your own territory, right? So for us, that's a very fundamental thing. And that is where I want to, bring in our audience and talk about how are we counterbalancing the Chinese in a core hard security realm.
Hello everyone, I am Rohit K from Amity University. So the China, for example, recently there were clashes which were happening in the India-China border, like the Galwan Valley and all. We had military dialogues and everything wherein we were trying to, negotiate between China and India about the border security issues and all. Also, India also believes that, in a peaceful way, we try to sort out issues of the military conflict and everything. Also, even though we are peaceful, but we remain prepared and defensive, wherein we are trying to bring in more army forces and making bases in the border areas like the Nathunla Pass and all those areas. So in that way, I believe that we are trying to counter China's influence in the border sector.
Okay, and what is the role of the strategic partnerships in pushing back Chinese influence? Can someone, we already heard a mention about Quad and such things. Can we hear about, because obviously the counterbalancing cannot just be in the purely military posture, there's so much else happening. So you have this whole region and there is the shadow of the Chinese hegemony. So how do you think India is rising to the occasion and pushing back to that?
My name is Jyotika Singh and I'm from Jindal Global University. One of the main aspects that I've been thinking to talk about is that there is this multilateralism that has been combined by Indian strategic autonomy has been very much important in countering China. For instance, South China Sea dispute has been one of the most fundamental issues that we have been trying to counter, which not only concerns the neighboring countries of China, but is a very prominent issue for us, right? So in that matter, we can take the prominent example of Quad, right? The quadrilateral security dialogue that was created, which allowed not only a good strategic partner for India, let's say in combining forces of Japan and US, but also allows them a good strong footing in that Indo-Pacific area so that it can protect us economic sources, B also military instances, right? Because we also have a constant naval threat from Chinese forces as well. Second one, I want to bring something recent is that India was very much prominent in building up BRICS 2.0, right? Now we have known that China is currently a part of BRICS, but why BRICS 2.0 is prominent? Because Indian diplomacy allowed for inclusion of other member states into the very dialogue, which also not only displays that India has that power to collaborate with other countries, but it also increases its strategic alliances with others, which helps in case of a Chinese aggression, albeit an economic aggression, a military aggression, or even a diplomatic aggression at that point. So in that matter, border clashes, yes, we have a strong military force, but when it comes to the whole comprehension of countering the Chinese narrative within Asia, this multilateral dialogue, this multilateralism and multi-alignment allows Indian strategic autonomy to be much more robust and strong. Thank you.
Good. Okay. So there are ways and means by which we are trying to cope with the China threat. We can't do a show on India's rights without also talking about our Western neighbor. Let's briefly reflect on what we have done with the Pakistan problem and the long festering issue. I mean, these days you hear less of it because of Pakistan's internal weakness and near failure-like status. But they still have means by which they can harm India, and we have been seeing these jihadist and terrorist forces that continue to try and wreak havoc in Kashmir. So many people around the world would want to know, can India finally be in control of the situation and end the menace, and unfortunately the incidents keep happening, our forces are losing life, civilians are still getting killed, but there are certain means by which we have tried to push them back, right? Would anyone like to speak about the counter-terrorism aspect of our foreign policy and what all we have done and what more we can do? Yes, please.
So when it comes to Pakistan, our very long-standing adversary, we have made it very clear on all the international forums, including UNSC and every UN debates, that it's not us who have this problem. It's Pakistan who has started this battle of terrorism. It's them who are funding terrorism each day. So we will not be engaging with Pakistan anywhere until or unless they stop funding or sanction some terrorist groups and recognize the terrorism in their own lands that comes to our borders and affects our civilians. Also, we have counter-terrorism laws in India, as well as we have signed a lot of treaties outside when it comes to counter-terrorism. Our foreign minister has said that counter-terrorism is not one country's problem. It's a global problem, and it could only be fought when we all come together. Regarding Pakistan, let's not forget that this is a country which holds a very anonymous, despicable record of harboring largest terrorist group, according to UNSC report. So when it comes to tackling Pakistan, we have already given our international statements. All it demands is international attention.
Yeah, so one is the direct counter-insurgency and counter-terrorist actions of the armed forces, and the other is the broader effort to isolate problem states. Okay, so folks, we have discussed a lot about our opportunities and challenges. Let me bring the show to a close by getting you in with brief remarks on this Indian century. Do you really believe that we will be this leading power, and do you really are you optimistic about this? If so, why? Let's hear some more voices as to why India can lead. This is not something that can be said lightly, because we say this with responsibility. It's not we're not boasting, right? Yes, please.
I am Uttara. I'm a student from OP Jindal Global University, and I am obviously very optimistic about India's development in the next 100 years, because all of us sitting here today discussing about our visions for the country, about how we can contribute, is itself a beginning, because we recognize the potential that India has. We have the resources to realize the vision that we have for the country. It is only possible when we can discuss our perspectives, where we can put forth how we can contribute to the country, is when we develop. And I think us getting these opportunities, us having a chance to put forth our opinions, is when we will develop, and in the next 100 years definitely seems like an optimistic start.
Okay, more voices please on the Indian century, and is it possible? Yes, please.
I'm Joel Mogra from OP Jindal Global University. So the technological advancements that are happening in India, especially during the COVID time when things were shut, but still we managed to get the UPI interface, and the countries abroad are asking us for the technology. We can see how India is developing, and when it comes to us, like if there's an adversary, we are probably the fastest to act on it, and we've shown it multiple times that we have the capacity and we have the strength, we have the human resource, and probably it will benefit us in the next 100 years, definitely. And I'm very optimistic about that.
Great. Now, nationalism is important, folks, because without that, no country has become a rising power, unless there's unity and nationalism in a society, right? If you're laid back and if you're not really united as a country, then it's easy for external forces to divide. This spirit of we will do something for the country is so deeply ingrained, especially among all of you. I want you to few more voices about why this country matters so much, and why we are all so charged up about it. I want the youth to talk about that.
Hello everyone, I'm Sanika. I'm from Amity University. And sir, I would like to talk about how China is today trying to take over USA. But I would say India should be the one who will be leading after US. And I don't think China will be a good leader. When we talk about India's leadership, we can see how India is not just a not just a challenger, but a friend to every other nation that is around in today's time. And India as a friend for the global South nations, for the developing nations, would be a great is a great example. Also, how India has always been a leader. How India was a leader in the non-alignment, and now how India is a leader in a strategic autonomy. India is leader for every other nation that is today developing and is known as a third world. So India's rise today is not just about the rise of the global South, but also it's the rise of all the developing nations that are all around the world.
Thank you. Okay, folks, we are almost out of time. Can I have one last voice on this country's rise? Why you feel pumped up about? I want, Young India. This is a Young India special of Indian diplomacy, and I want you to tell the whole world why you think this country has it within its, capacities to rise to the top.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. I'm Siddharth. I'm from Jindal Global University. Firstly, I'm very optimistic about India's rise because as we learn all through international relations about the first mover advantage, here the first mover advantage is not about attacking, but it is about spreading your hand and signing agreements, bilateral agreements with other countries that help you a lot. For example, recently with the Nordic-Baltic agreement that is going with IIT Madras for increasing maritime policies and also India trying to become self-sufficient for semiconductor production and their recent agreements with Taiwan Foxconn and them setting up in Gujarat. So I think that the fact that we are going to develop, we're focusing more on Make in India, but also still having trades with others. That means that we are also focusing on ourselves for our rise and also our friends.
Okay, thank you. So viewers, what we have witnessed is a group discussion with young Indians about why India has the potential to become a leading power in the world. And the Indian century is not a fantasy. There are skeptics, there are people who are saying India will never become a great power. There's a lot of cynicism, especially you hear internationally, where people trying to downplay India's strengths, or people simply trying to run down anything India does because they don't like the regime here, or because they have some ideological biases. But if you look at it objectively, and that's what we have tried to do today in the show with young Indians, if you look at it, purely objectively, then you have a situation where this country's rise is probably unstoppable. And the proof of this lies in all these young minds who are ideating and thinking about how to pilot India's rise to the top. And it's not often that we have this kind of an audience, but we've got the 100th episode of Indian Diplomacy where we wanted everyone to come together and to celebrate the rise of this country and to also demonstrate to the world that we are on the move. And that's what is happening, viewers. So I want to thank you especially for being with me for the last 2.5 years in this journey of Indian diplomacy. And we've heard diplomats, we've heard journalists, we've heard media personalities, we've heard intellectuals, we've heard politicians and public figures. But today, for the 100th, we got young Indians. And I think there's no better way to signal this milestone of 100 episodes than to gather young Indians and to see firsthand what they are brainstorming and how they see India's rise happening and how they are contributing to India's rise. So I want to congratulate all these young people for being soldiers for a big cause. And we are all here for a big cause, which is to make sure that this Indian century is realized. Viewers, the Indian century is coming. I can guarantee you that all these young hearts and minds here can guarantee you that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Until then, take care.